Hey guys, it's Dennis here with Revog Games. I'm joined by
Joshua Weyers, all the way in South Africa. And we got a flip
yeah,
this time, Dennis. It's the
yeah,
morning for me, it's the evening for you.
yeah, exactly. And this is our weekly podcast. We're trying to do this on Friday, but like both of our schedules didn't match up. But we are, going to talk about some video game news. Before we do that, I think. Was it last week or the week before where I announced the game that we were working on?
The week before. It would have
Okay.
been last week if we did this
Okay.
podcast on time.
Okay. Pick up. Oh yeah.
But,
So pick up basketball VR. If you guys have any VR system, it's coming out not this Friday, but the next Friday on the 26th. It's an early access. So the game's done. You can play it. It has all the different modes online, but it's not fully polished yet, and there's some things we want to add to it. But yeah, check out that trailer. I tweeted it out just for, if you're a fan of VR and you're a fan of this podcast, I will be giving away some Steam keys. So I'd say the first two people who retweet the trailer off of either my Twitter account or the Revog Games Twitter account, I will send you a couple Steam keys. Anyways,
Hell yeah.
yeah. I'll give you two. The winner, there's two winners, and each winner will get two keys because it's more fun if you have someone else to play with. Play 3-point contest, one-on-one. I mean, there's 2v2, but maybe you can team up with someone else to battle another person.
Some 3v3, man. Hell yeah.
So, all right, let's move on to our topics. The big one. There's a lot of I really wanted to do the news last week, but Last of Us. Well, the first thing that actually happened, it was all on the same day, was like first they announced that what's her name?
I forget as well. The person
the
who's
girl
gonna be
that plays
playing,
Lyanna Mormont in Game of Thrones, the one that everyone loved because she was like this small little girl, but she was like kicking ass and telling older people how weak they were. Which hilariously, her last name is actually Ramsey, Bella Ramsey. So, which is funny. Anyway, she got cast to play Ellie in the Last of Us TV series that's coming on HBO. And
Macy Williams isn't. No, wait, that's not it. Oh,
no.
this was what people thought who was going to be playing it. My bad.
Yeah. And then
She was considered. That's it.
yeah, and so then they started talking about who would play Joel. And I know there was the rumor, and I think it might even be more than a rumor, that it kind of went out to Mahershala Ali, like the offer either was made or discussed or something like that. But apparently either he turned it down or it didn't work out or whatever. So it ended up going to Pedro Pascal, of also Game of Thrones fame, who played the Red Viper. Also more famously right now for the Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're two interesting choices. I like them both, but I didn't really like Mahershala Ali. I think is a fantastic actor, but I didn't really get like Joel vibe off of him necessarily. But I feel like Pedro Pascal, I think he can pull it off. I was thinking, was I talking with you? Who was I talking with about like possibly someone like, we already had, Hugh Jackman play Old Man Logan in Logan, which was basically the X-Men version of Last of Us. So you wouldn't have him, but people were talking about people like even Game of Thrones alumni as well. Nikolai Costa-Waldau. I don't know exactly how to pronounce his name, but the guy who played Jaime Lannister.
Oh yeah.
As one. Carl Urban was a good one that was being thrown around. So there was a lot of good choices. What do you think of this casting?
Man, I'll tell you what, because this has been something I've been thinking about for a while. Every single time we bring up The Last of Us, whether it's the video game or it's the HBO show, I've like so many people went through my head initially as a casting choice, and I didn't even consider Pedro Pascal, who I love, who is a phenomenal actor, just really genuine, and he's had a great like couple 2-3 years. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
really like good for him. His career has really been blowing up.
He was in Narcos, Mandalorian, Game of Thrones. He was in the Wonder
He was
Woman.
so good
Even
in
though
Narcos
even
as
though I
well.
didn't like that movie, he was actually good in
Yep.
it.
He's been killing it. So here's the thing. I don't think he looks like Joel. I think he looks a little bit like Joel, but there are a lot of other actors that look way more. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But I don't think it's gonna matter. I think what's gonna matter at the end of the day is the fact that he's gonna kill it. He's gonna bring Joel to life more so than I think other actors could have or would have. Because I feel like most other actors, especially just with where Pedro Pascal is right now in his career, he's been
Mhm.
taking he's just been doing good. Whether he's taking it seriously or putting in the effort, I don't even know. Maybe he's just naturally. All I know is things are going well right now, and he's putting out quality work right now. So I know for a fact that following that, like this, he's just gonna smash this. So much so that after I read this, I already forgot all the people I had in mind for this, who I would have wanted to play Joel. All the people that I was considering, I can't even remember a single name of the people I considered. You know what I mean? Like, it makes sense to me. I don't know. Like when I read this, I was like, oh, duh, of course. It's obvious. He's the obvious choice for this. Like especially because he is now a big name, and you want to have a big name lead the show. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
he's got that. He's got that going for him. I was so worried that they were going to put like an A-lister in this position who was just going to give us. I wouldn't say subpar acting, but not Joel. Like they would have given us a great acting, but they wouldn't have given us Joel. You know what I mean? Like not like I mean they never would have used Brad Pitt for this, but if they did, Brad Pitt would have just been Brad Pitt as Joel. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like Pedro Pascal, he's gonna be Joel. He's not gonna be Pedro Pascal as Joel. He's gonna be Joel. Like, and I think that that's pretty cool. I'm not like there's a lot of other actors that would have done a good job too. I think, but like Pedro Pascal really is like I said, he looks close enough to the role, especially in this picture that you chose, like the one behind me. He looks close enough where it's like honestly, you give that guy a full beard and you won't even like notice the difference really if you think about it, you know. Now I'm excited for that, and then Bella Ramsey as well. My only issue is I wonder if she's too young to play that role,
Well,
or
it's
if
been a
she
few
is.
years since Game of Thrones, so she's definitely gotten
Yeah,
older. I think that's where I'm a more of a question mark on her, even though like many people, I loved her on Game of Thrones, but I haven't seen her in anything
yeah,
else, and two, she's
exactly.
grown since that time. I mean, Game of Thrones is now season 8 was what, 2 or 3 years ago
Oh,
now.
wow, yeah, you got a good point there.
I
Well,
think
to
it's
be
at
fair,
least
because
two
I
years.
was
Yeah.
considering maybe they're casting her because she's young, considering the long game. You know what I mean? Maybe they're
hmm
expecting this series to go on for a lot longer. You know what I mean? Doing the role when she's older as well. You know,
Yeah, I'm
as
looking at a recent picture. She looks, much.
she does look a bit older now.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
looked at her IMDb.
So,
Still has like a very innocent looking face. So I'm
yeah,
curious to. Then again, I guess that's the beauty of acting. Like we'll see what she can
yeah,
bring to this character
yeah,
and give at least some more edge. You know.
yeah, and also,
All in all,
with
great news.
cast,
I haven't heard a single person complain about this.
and casting is always like, yes, you kind of want the character to or the actor to look like the character that you've seen before, whether it's a video game or comic book or whatnot. But you don't have to. It doesn't have to be exact. It's more about one, can they act, and two, can they capture the character, the spirit of the character, and this is things that we won't know yet from them. Like remember, everyone loves Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Hugh Jackman is 6 foot what compared to
He's
Wolverine in the
big, yeah.
comic. In the comics he's like a short guy, so it's not
Did you
exactly
know a little
what.
bit of trivia here? Did you know that originally somebody else was cast as Wolverine, and they actually started
Oh,
production,
did they?
and then like I think like a week into production, they found Hugh Jackman, and he was just much better. Like he was the Wolverine, man. Like
Happens, man.
Imagine being that guy that was the Wolverine for that 1 week before. I mean, keep in mind the way Hollywood works is that that guy still got paid. You know what I mean? It's not like he got
Yeah, but
shot.
people think about, oh, what would my career have been if I had done this or that?
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
true. That's
because
true.
like you speaking of Game of Thrones, you had Amelia Clarke, who played Khaleesi in Game of Thrones, and they had someone else in that role before, and I think they shot the whole pilot too, and they recast her entire, both the mom, Mama Stark, Catelyn.
Oh yeah, yeah.
She was also recast as well. I mean, she didn't end up becoming like a huge. I mean, not that Emilia Clarke is like huge star, but I mean, she's been a lead in several movies now. She's pretty famous. So it's like, okay. So I'm sure whoever you're talking about in
Oh, here, yeah. Doug Ray Scott. Doug Ray, and the reason why, actually, I had this wrong. I just had to look it up now. It's actually essentially Tom Cruise didn't let him be the because he was doing Mission Impossible at the time. So Tom Cruise was like, "No, you don't. You got to stay and finish the film. You don't have time to go do your silly little superhero movie." So essentially, because of Tom Cruise, Doug Ray Scott, who now that I see his face, I actually do recognize him. I don't recognize his name though. But yeah, he couldn't be the Wolverine because he was. Well, that's also like, look, you've got obligations. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
So it's not like he got screwed. Once again, he didn't get screwed out of the role per se. He was still in a movie. He was still in Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise. You know, so
you never know. You never know what would happen.
yeah, you don't know what's gonna blow up. Like I guarantee you, half the people on Stranger Things was not expecting it to blow up that big.
No.
You know what I mean? I bet you Winona Ryder was sitting there going, "Thank God I'm getting paid more than anyone else on season 1 because I don't think this is gonna do good." You know? Now it's like, because I remember like season 1, those kids were getting paid about 15 grand an episode, which is I think like standard union standard kind of thing. And now they're getting like, well, depending on which kid it is, they're getting like $200,000 an episode. You know?
Makes sense.
But yeah, that's life, man. That's Hollywood.
Yeah. So anything else about these castings? Like I said, like I think they're both good. I'm not my first choice for either one, but when I say first choice, I don't mean that to be like, ooh, they suck, or I totally wanted someone. It was just in my mind, I thought of different actors for the roles, but that doesn't mean they can't kill it in these particular ones. So
I mean, for me, I completely agree. I'm in the same thing where it's like I can think of a bunch of other actors that could have done just as good of a job, maybe even better, but I think that they are in a much higher paid bracket. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying not shaming Pedro. He's probably in a very high paid bracket as well, but like I mean, Pedro he's a TV star. You know what I mean? He's a TV series star. He's a series. I don't know of Pedro being in any movies. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where he's not really getting that movie star salary, but you're getting pretty close to it. You know, especially with having done Game of Thrones, Narcos, The Mandalorian. You're working with Disney. You're probably getting paid close to a movie star salary, I'd imagine. But yeah, Pedro Pascal just makes sense to me in terms of like bang for your buck. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how much he costs, but I guarantee you they're probably going to get more acting out of him for his price than you would out of somebody who you're going to probably pay double the amount to get the same kind of acting skills. You know, it's one of those things where like it's a financial decision that makes sense to me as well. Like, I feel like he's going to be, like I said, the other people who could do this well are probably going to cost 2 times more and might not even be worth it. You know?
Yeah. All right.
And he seems like he brings a good energy to set as well. Like everyone always talks about that. He's like kind of goofy as well. So he's lighthearted. He's not that serious. And you usually need someone like that on set, from my experience, to keep things moving. I wouldn't say smoothly, but to keep things moving without any drama. You know, you need that icebreaker guy on set, or you need that kind of like nice goofy guy.
All right.
Nobody's mad about this as well. I think we all know. Everybody's happy with this casting.
I'm sure there's some people.
Oh yeah, with The Last of Us, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next topic. This one is it's a story that we had, but now it's a non-story. Anyways, there was this job posting that had suggested that there was going to be a new Halo project, and so everyone was speculating, what is this? Is it going to be Halo Wars 3? Is it going to be something different? But then they kind of found out, oh, no. It was just a posting for Halo Infinite. So there was no, they kind of I think they reused an old job posting, so it made it sound like it was a new project, but the new project was something that was already being worked on, which was Halo Infinite. So they kind of cleared the air that, hey, no, we're not working on Halo Wars 3. We're not working on some other Halo type game, a new project in the Halo universe.
I completely forgot about Halo Wars, man. Wow. Like, thanks for that, Jim. Actually, you know what? Halo Wars 3 that sounds like a pretty good idea, to be honest. Well, I can't believe I completely forgot about that. Sorry to interrupt you. That just blew my mind.
I never played it. I probably should try it out because now it's on
it's on Game Pass. Yeah,
I should check it out. I just never thought like, hey, because it was for the console, but now they have an
RTS
PC
games
now,
don't
right?
work that well on console.
Yeah,
they got on PC and it makes more sense. And I know you like your RTS games. So give it a try if you like your RTS games.
So even though that thing got shot down, I did want to say, if let's say the rumor actually ended up being true, and they were working on a Halo game that had nothing to do with Halo Infinite or the standard FPS game that they normally do, what would you want to see from the Halo franchise?
Honestly, if we're not talking about if we're talking about something Halo related, but not necessarily Halo or Halo Wars, people are gonna think I'm crazy for this, but I feel like an action platformer would be kind of cool in the Halo world. Like,
what kind of action platform?
Like I think of games where it's like, because especially like when I saw the trailer for Halo Infinite, they had the grappling hook, right? I was thinking to myself, like, how much more fun would Halo be if you added way more like of those mechanics, of those like platforming, getting around kind of mechanics, and like, I guess at that point it would still be an FPS. It would just be like an FPS with a lot more movement options. You know what I mean? Like more Unreal Tournament ish somewhere like well, you played Titanfall 2, kind of like somewhere like that movement, but like amplified more, almost goofy. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm just craving Unreal Tournament. I think that's what's happening here. I have a craving for Unreal Tournament. I haven't had a game like that in a while. A good like arena shooter. You know what? Honestly, it's still in that same realm, but I feel like Halo could do a really good arena shooter. We haven't had a good arena shooter in a long time. I think Halo could do a really fun arena shooter. Set it in that world. Give it like a goofy spin-off where it's like kind of like Apex Legends, where it's like it's a show, you know what I mean? Like, because the world of Halo it's fairly serious, but hey, maybe we can have an arena where it's like a gladiator type thing where people are people are watching and somehow try to work it into the lore. But I would like either an arena shooter or honestly like this sounds stupid, but I would also kind of like a Mario Kart-esque racing game from them. I bet you people listening to this right now are thinking, what the hell am I saying? What am I thinking? But I think about, there was this old game I used to play called Jack X Racing. It was set on the Jack and Daxter universe. And it was just like a much more fast-paced Mario Kart. And I was like, I would like that, man. Like, there was that genre where it wasn't, I guess it's the Mario Kart genre, where it's like a lot of games were like about racing, but also blowing up your enemy while racing. You know what I mean? And I feel like there's not really a lot of those games anymore. Well, I guess they had Crash Team Nitro Racing, but that really is very Mario Kart-esque. I want something more fast-paced with guns, I'd love to just be in a race with a bunch of other people in their warthogs, you know what I mean? Just shooting each other while like trying to get from point A to point B. There's a lot of things they could do, honestly. They could even do like a Telltale choose your own adventure kind of game, even, you know what I mean? Like very story heavy. But no, I don't know. That's not what I would have. Honestly, like my guess would have been probably some kind of action RPG, but set in the Halo universe.
Yeah.
Imagine Master Chief with a war axe.
Yeah, but could you do it third person, or would you have to
if
first person?
If it was action RPG, it would have to be third person because it's so satisfying to see like you swinging your melee weapon. Because look, you get your melee weapons in Halo, but it's never really something focused on. You know what I mean? So I think it would be cool to see a game where it's like you have a character who is more melee influenced. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Doesn't mean that everyone has to use melee guns. Like I'm sure people can still shoot you and you use a shield or whatever. But I feel like that would be quite cool. Is if they gave us like Master Chief, but more, I don't know, like more melee. Give him like a giant axe or something, or like some big ass great sword. Start. I don't know. Like there's a lot of things that like something new, something fresh would be interesting to see. Like maybe not Dynasty Warriors esque, but like I don't know, like there's a lot of room there for like some kind of action RPG. I think not action RPG, but action adventure. Sorry, that's what I
Yeah,
think.
I mean the thing, the problem. I mean, I would love to see a Halo game set in some sort of open world RPG, but I just don't know if that pace works well with the Halo franchise because the Halo's.
I just don't think RPGs would work well. Like with, and
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people would disagree with me, but I would like the RPG mechanics. Like in a game like that, I feel like you would spend so much time in the mechanics of the RPG mechanics, and then you would like your combat's gonna last like 5 minutes, and it's like you spent
Yeah.
like 20 minutes adjusting your skill points.
Where
just to
Halo's
shoot
all
somebody.
about like action,
Just
all the
action, yeah.
time.
That's why I'm saying like if they did like an action adventure, but focused instead of being an FPS, did like a third person style, and focused more on like. I mean, you can't just do melee in the Halo universe, but if they had like a better mix of melee and like guns, but I think they could get away with like third person,
They
at doing something quite
could. I
fun there.
mean, you had Red Dead Redemption is third person that uses guns more than melee weapons. My concern is just more about the pacing of it. Like
I tell you what, I would love is if Halo, honestly, if they also just released a Halo strictly multiplayer game, if they just released a Halo that was strictly multiplayer, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying like their own battle royale or something. I don't think.
Well, they are
Halo would,
doing their free
Yeah.
to play battle royale game.
I don't think.
I think
gonna
that's
do
why
well.
it's getting delayed.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna. It's the market's so oversaturated. I don't think it's gonna look. I think it's gonna do well initially, and then like even
Depends.
Warzone, which was the top dog, like they're doing well now again, but only because they finally ended up banning like hundreds and thousands of hackers.
Mhm.
Because for like months, people would just stop playing the game because there were too many hackers. Everyone's like, "What's the point of playing the game? You're just gonna bump into a hacker, get your time ruined,"
Yeah.
So they fixed that. I think the Halo battle royale and well the multiplayer I think is gonna. I think the multiplayer I already know is gonna do well for a very long time. You know what I mean? But their battle royale, I think it's gonna do well in the beginning and then kind of sizzle out. Unless they really keep pumping in like new things in there, and I don't mean like new guns, but they gotta put
It really
more.
depends.
They gotta put some experiences
Honestly,
in there.
depends
I
on how
think.
much money they make. That's
That's
the
true as
thing.
well.
If they make a lot of money from it, they'll pump more resources into it. I mean, that's kind of like the catch-22 with these free-to-play games, whether they're battle royale or not. Is that
You gotta have
you-
games as a service. You gotta have your microtransactions.
Yeah, and so if you're making that money back, you can do whatever, and you can give that back to the consumer. But if you're not, then it's like, well, then are you going to spend more money to keep them around, even though you're not getting the return on it? So it's tough. It's tough.
Here's what I think a lot of people would enjoy, and I think a lot of people want this, but they just don't know they want it yet, which is somewhere a cross between Halo and Battlefield, where it's like it's just Halo, but the maps are huge, and there's like 64, maybe 100 players on a map kind of thing, and it's like big teams, like 32 against 32. You know what I mean? Like those are things that I think people would like, or like I think of like Unreal Tournament 3, which is pretty old now. Like they had, was it Unreal Tournament? They had these game modes where it's like you have to capture certain areas, you know what I mean? And then advance on, and whichever team has the most amount of areas, it's not capture the flag, but you're like essentially like king of the hill, but there's different type of areas. I don't know, like I think that would work really well, is if Halo did something where it's like they have much bigger maps, much bigger player sizes, and then different game modes where it's like you get to work in like coordination with bigger teams, add more vehicles, add like, literally like honestly straight up just like a Halo / Battlefield game would be amazing. Where you have your air, you got your ground vehicles, your air vehicles, you know what I mean? Your different roles that people can play. I think that would do really well. I know that they did something, well, not Halo, but like I know that Quake did it a long time ago. Wow, that took me. My brain sizzled out for a second. Quake, like one of the last games that they released, I think, was their own version of like Battlefield, but set in the world of Quake, where it's like you have your own vehicles as well, helicopters, planes. You know what I mean? It was literally, and I had so much fun with that. I just don't think it blew up. I don't think it did very well. But yeah, that would be sick. Halo, but like Battlefield, and it's very doable for them. You know what I mean? It's not really out of their element. You know, it's still first-person shooter kind of thing. I think that would be sick. I think people would like that as well.
All right, let's move on to the next topic. We've got Black Myth Wukong official Year of the Ox gameplay trailer. So this was like a huge viral hit last year when the first trailer came out. No one had heard about this game. I mean, when I mean no one, I mean the general public. And then it came out and it kind of just blew up. It comes from a fairly small team in China.
Less than 10 people, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure it's grown since that time because I'm sure they got a lot more investors at that point. But man, this gameplay trailer, I don't know how many.
It's amazing.
I don't know how many people are on the team now, but this is like AAA quality now. You know what I mean? Like, if you see this
is next
game,
gen quality, dude.
Yeah, but when you see it, it's like the graphics and the animation. This is not. They're not. It doesn't look like they're skimping out on anything. I mean, look. I don't know how the game will play. Maybe the game plays like ass. Who knows? But judging from just purely the videos and the trailers that we've seen in this latest one, it looks top. Like, how did they do all this animation work and character model work and
in the short amount of time? I mean, it's been what? Like, it's been less than a year since that previous video we watched, I think.
Yeah, it's been less than a year. Yeah,
it's been less than a year. So like that's an insane amount of progress. For me, the thing that stands out the most is that like they really cleaned up the animations. The animations were really good in the first place, but like now they're really good. And I don't just mean all the the visual effects. I mean like the actual movement, specifically on Wukong himself. Like there's a couple of like I'm rewatching the trailer now again because it's so good. But there's just like him like standing, like his normal like walking animation looks a lot more clean and natural. Like him like moving his head, like certain things, it just tracks better, and like they've really tightened up and cleaned up Wukong himself. Like the player, like they put a lot of effort into the player character, which is great. Dude, it's so impressive. I'm so excited for this game, and it's one of those things where, considering how much progress we've seen them make in this past, like I want to say 9 or 10 months, this is not going to be a game that we're going to see in 5 or 6 years. We're going to see this game in like a year or two. You know what I mean? It's gonna. It's like that's what I'm getting. They gotta hit when it's gonna happen soon.
They gotta hit it when the hype and momentum is on their side. They've got to release it sometime this year.
Yeah. Anything later than mid next year, and that would be a loss, I think.
Yeah, I think they go for the juggler and come out this
December
holiday season. Yeah, November,
that would be
October,
smart.
November. I think that if they want to, yeah, I think that the latest is first quarter of 2022. I think for this game, but like because you've got the whole gaming world, it's like totally like falling in love with this.
We're transfixed, man. They didn't really show this in the new trailer, but like one of the things I'm still most excited for about this is going through the different versions of Wukong.
Yeah, he has the different powers that can transform into different
staffs. Yeah. So he has like the different staffs that like allow him to have the different powers, and they like I'm still blown away by the fact that also like I mean you grew up with this.
Yes.
I grew up with iterations of this just from being a nerd and a geek. You know what I mean? So I've grown up through like obviously my first iteration of Wukong was Goku from Dragon Ball Z, who was loosely based on Wukong. Mm-hmm. But then like I just fell in love with the story of like of the Monkey King in general. There's so many wonderful stories. And amazing Chinese movies as well about
there's Wukong. The live action, there's animated, there's comic books.
There was a trilogy recently that was like pretty good. Like it's just called Wukong, I think, or the Monkey King was the English translation. It was just really good, high budget trilogy about it. And then you also like in the Forbidden Kingdom, which I loved. A lot of people hated that movie. I loved that movie with whatchamacallit, it was Jet Li, Jackie Chan, and then that kid who I thought was going to become a celebrity, but just I guess fell off the face of the earth from Sky High, or whatever his name was. I love that movie. And then he like you got Wukong, like what was Jet Li was Wukong in that? I think Jet Li was like, or because he played both characters. He played himself, and then he also played like Wukong, I think, in that, and that was amazing. But in the original trailer, they showed, the trailer we saw a year ago, they showed him fighting on the clouds, and that's such an iconic scene. Like, I can't wait to be fighting on the clouds, man. Oh, and you get Nimbus, you get your own little flying cloud, bro. Come on, I'm there for it. I'm so excited.
Yeah. So another big kind of trailer that helped push the momentum even bigger. Hype even bigger, so can't wait to see that. I'm surprised that like a PlayStation
blew my mind,
or Microsoft, Sony or Microsoft hadn't like come in and be like, "Hey, exclusive for our platform. Here's a bunch of money."
Do you think it's because it's a Chinese company and they're like they gotta worry about copyright issues and like the great Chinese firewall and things like that? Because I just know like when it comes to,
I don't think there's any.
Yeah. I just know buying, like, because like there is a slight risk in, well, like, you can collaborate with Chinese companies, but I know that there's like a slight risk in buying your own Chinese company, in the sense. Well, actually, I don't know. It like no. Sorry, the risk is the other way around.
Buying, you're just trying to.
Chinese owned, yeah.
You're just trying to get
it's weird how like the rules even work. Exactly, yeah. No, honestly, like what I'm surprised by is how no one's jumped in as a distributor yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's surprising to me. Like, or like, you know, like getting, like I wouldn't want a studio to buy this. I want these people to do their own thing and like be left alone to do their own thing, because I think they're going to give us the best game that way. But for sure, I'm surprised by the fact that no big publishers or distributors have joined in yet. Sorry, I got a phone call.
Yeah, it's coming out on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. So there's no. It was August when we saw that.
Yeah, so it wasn't even that long ago. Yeah, that's crazy.
That 13-minute pre-alpha gameplay trailer. So.
Yeah. Oh, and then going back because I forgot to mention this. Just going back.
It says they plan to release in 2023. Ooh, that's a little long.
Oh, I mean, how they look? It's possible to keep the hype going, but then they got to keep some secrets. I think, you know what I mean. Before you show us another gameplay trailer, maybe like hide a couple epic boss fights. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause there's gonna be epic boss fights in this game. I think like I think in like 2022 maybe. They should release like another video of like a couple epic boss fights just to keep people going, keep people interested. How are they going to keep the hype going till that point? I mean, it's possible when you have big studios. I mean, you need a lot of money for marketing, you know? A lot of money for that kind of marketing.
Yeah, 2023 is a while. I mean, 2022 is already kind of pushing it, but you could still do it. But 2023, it's a long time away. People tend to move
going
on.
Back to the Last of Us news real quick. I forgot to mention this. They said pre-production. Pre-production is going to take the longest out of the entire process, which is interesting to me, because usually that's either production or post-production. But yeah, pre-production they said is going to take the longest time, and they should hopefully start filming being full on production towards the end of this year. So we should be seeing the show on HBO next year. Maybe early next year, but probably mid next year.
Yeah.
For the Last of Us show.
Too soon. Especially with the
like,
pandemic still going on.
Unless they're doing post production whilst releasing it like weekly, which I don't think they're going to do. They're going to probably release it all in one.
I mean, they do that. They do that. I know, like when Game of Thrones was coming out, like they were still doing post on later episodes, especially visual effects. Like a lot of the edits may be locked, but like they had.
They might do that.
Effects. Because I remember I used to get screener copies like a week or two before Game of Thrones came out, and I would watch them and be like, "Oh, here's this," and the visual effects not quite done yet, you know. So.
Okay, yeah. So I just thought I'd mention that. I've completely forgot to bring that up.
All right, moving on to our next thing. This was a big news topic.
Yeah.
CD Projekt Red. They basically hacked and they had a cyber attack, and a lot of source code was stolen from Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077, and then they left a ransom note, which CD Projekt Red basically came out and said, we're not paying that. We're not going to be, blackmailed into doing this. And apparently all that stuff was sold on the dark web. They had a $7 million price tag. I don't know. It's weird. It's like, one, who's buying this? And for what purpose are they buying it?
Exactly. I mean, look, the only people who could be interested in it are other like rival companies, but they're not gonna like. I don't see a big company risking like their reputation by buying the shit on. You know what I mean? Because look, here's the thing. Hypothetically speaking, if this really did happen, because I have my doubts whether it happened or not. I don't want to be one of those like skeptics or like a conspiracy theorist, but it's like, especially reading this ransom note. Here's the thing. Either the people who hacked them are like pretty old because of the way that this note was written, because nobody talks like that anymore. You know what I mean? Either that, or it almost, because here's the thing, a lot of people are saying that it sounds like an old guy trying to sound young. So people are thinking that Cyberpunk like did this to themselves or whatever. I highly doubt they did this to themselves. I also highly doubt that this stuff was actually sold online. It could have been, but who, like you said, who would buy it? Hypothetically speaking, they do this, right? They go on the dark web, they sell all the information for whatever amount. They're not going to get the $7 million that they asked for. You know what I mean? Not on the dark web, that's for damn sure. They're going to get paid in crypto for one. So you're going to get paid. They probably got paid in Bitcoin, most likely, or some form of crypto, because that's what happens on the dark web. And then it's a case of like, well, I guess crypto is hard to track. So you could, if you were a rival company, do it like that. But you wouldn't risk that. You wouldn't risk your reputation.
Point, though?
Exactly. And you know that like, what are you going to get out of The Witcher 3? You know, what are you going to get out of the resources from The Witcher 3, a game that came out years ago? It's a great game, don't get me wrong, but like, shit, I'm sure whatever details you wanted to get from The Witcher 3, you could probably have like, what's the word I'm looking for? Reverse engineer the game. You know what I mean? If you really wanted to, you know, it doesn't make sense to me. So it's one of those things where if somebody did buy it, I highly doubt anybody bought it online. I'm sure they try to sell it on the dark web. Because here's the thing, they also said that like CD Projekt Red said that like the information they had nothing to do with the customers, or like there's no like email addresses or any like, the people who were affected were employees for the most part. So all the private information that the hackers do have is mainly for the employees, which is unfortunate. But it's like, once again, what are you going to do with that? You know, like the only people who could benefit from this are people who are like identity thieves trying to like steal the employees' identities with the private information that got leaked. That's the only.
What are you
and that's the only thing I can think of. It makes no sense.
The only people who can afford to pay for it don't need to buy it. That's my
exactly. It just doesn't make, and it's one of those things where like a lot of people, I don't think that CD Projekt Red did this, but a lot of people are saying that it's like, it almost seems like this happened so that the hate can go off of CD Projekt Red. Which I've said this before many times. I do not think CD Projekt Red deserves the amount of hate that it's getting. Yes, they screwed up with the PS4 version. Yes, they didn't lie to you. They just decided to keep certain information to themselves. You know, which I guess is lying. Depends how you look at it. But yeah, like CD Projekt Red, they fucked up, rightfully so. But like, I don't think they deserve as much hate as what they're getting. And it almost seems like if CD Projekt Red did this, I would be sad. I don't think they did, but it does seem a little like they did this to themselves, to be like, hey, look, we're getting attacked. Please take pity on us, you know?
I don't think it's worth it. Like I said.
Yeah. It just does.
None of this people with these conspiracy theories is like, but why? You know what I mean? That's the overall, the big question. Is it really worth it? It's not really worth it. Why would it be worth it for CD Projekt Red to even do something like that, where they would get caught and people would find out, oh, they did it to themselves to gain sympathy? They'd look like even bigger losers. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. None of this makes sense, Dennis. Here's the only thing.
People love conspiracy theories, though.
Here's the only other thing that would make sense to me, and in actual fact, this is what I think it is. I'm just skeptical because it hasn't happened yet, which is that this was all done for clout. Like, you got to remember, like 7-8 years ago, hackers would hack big companies for clout. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like no one knew about Omega Lol until like sorry, not Omega Lol, for the lols until they started like hacking Twitter and things like that. You know what I mean? But the only reason why I'm like skeptical on that is because if it was for clout, the hacker group would have come out by now and be like, "Yo, we were the ones who did it. Follow us. Check out our streams." You know. But yeah, I don't know. Nobody gained from this. You know what I mean? Nobody. CD Projekt. If this really did happen, the only thing that happened was CD Projekt Red. They lost a lot of pivotal information, and I'm sure the information they're most worried about is the private information of their employees. That's the information they're most worried about. And it's like they got hurt by it, but I don't see anybody gaining from this. Once again, the people who hacked them, like even in this note, yeah, you have been epically pwned. Oh my god, it's so cringy.
Yeah,
it's so cringy. But
they said that they think it's a ransomware group called Hello Kitty.
Yeah, because this is another thing that doesn't make sense to me. Why in this ransom note, why didn't they leave their tag? If it was by a group called Hello Kitty, they should have put Hello Kitty at the bottom of this ransom note. You know what I mean? Because they know that they're going to share it. You know, like you don't form a hacker group unless you want the attention. If you wanted to just hack, you would do it on your own, or you would do it with a group, but you wouldn't give yourselves a name. You wouldn't give yourselves an identity. You know what I mean? You would just be a hacker. You would, in actual fact, if having any form of identity would be stupid as a hacker. You know what I mean? You want to be completely anonymous.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next one. There's a report that Anthem's next future is dependent on EA's upcoming internal review. So if people have been following Anthem at all, you know, it was a highly hyped project. It came out. It was, you know, it didn't do well because the game didn't seem like it was fully finished. And then later on, there was all these like articles about talking about how the game was rushed because, you know, that EA really liked the demo, but they really wanted to get it out soon. And so they pushed for it to come out soon. It just was half baked. And so the thing is, I've played the demo of Anthem. I haven't played it fully, but, you know, the demo was fun. The gameplay mechanics was fun. But apparently, I think the repetitiveness, there wasn't a lot of, you know, reason to come back to the game. There wasn't a lot of diversity in the gameplay mechanics. But anyways, they wanted to fix that, right? They dedicated a small team to kind of reboot Anthem in a way. Not for a new game, but they're calling it Anthem Next. And they were going to kind of fix it up. But apparently now, this may or may not happen. So, yeah, EA's going to take a look at it and say, like, is this worth it? It's just one of those things where, like, financially, probably not worth it. But for PR purposes, I think it might be worth it, you know, that people can, you know, come back to the game and play it and be like, okay. Kind of like what they did, Bethesda did for Fallout 76. When, you know, I first got Fallout 76, it was half baked, wasn't great. You know, I'd spent, you know, the full $50-$60 on it, barely played it at all. You know, I felt like I wasted my money. I didn't have a, you know, even though Fallout is one of my favorite video game franchises, I didn't leave a good taste in my mouth. It didn't turn me off from Fallout Forever, but, you know, just didn't feel that great. They come out with the update to it. I forgot the name of it because they had so many different modes or whatever. But I think it was Wastelanders. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. But they came out with that about a little over a year later because I think it got delayed. And I got it and I played it and I enjoyed it. And no, it didn't live up to the expectations of what I thought of Fallout 76 open world kind of MMO style game would be.
It lived up to people's expectations as a survival game, though, I think.
Yeah, but it at least bought back, and because it was free, the goodwill that it bought was like, okay, cool. Now I look more forward to what the next Fallout thing is. I mean, obviously they got bought by Microsoft, and we'll see if it becomes exclusive to Microsoft or whatnot. But what I'm saying is like, okay, that the disdain or the bad taste in my mouth wasn't, completely removed, but it wasn't as bad. So I feel like that's what doing this Anthem Next would do for the game. And stuff like what No Man's Sky did something like that.
I was actually going to bring that up because I think that's where they got the real idea for Anthem Next, is because No Man's Sky, we all know the story of No Man's Sky, but as the years went on, all of their updates, all their DLC has been free, but the real one that brought back their player base and actually, like, I want to say like doubled or quadrupled their player base just from releasing it, was an update called No Man's Sky Next. And I believe that was the first update where they actually properly added multiplayer. So like that's when I got back into the game as well. Like No Man's Sky Next was what got me hooked on No Man's Sky again. Well, I wouldn't say again, because the first time I was like only hooked for a day, and then I realized, wait, there's no real point to any of this. Like, where's all the things I was promised? You know what I mean? But yeah, No Man's Sky Next did an amazing, like, I think a lot of developers looked at that as a huge win. Like, whether even if, like, regardless of their outlook on Hello Games, that's impressive. You know what I mean? To do a free update like that out of your own time and money, and then bring back all your all the reviews were great from ever since No Man's Sky Next moving forward. Every update since then, people have been praising. The player base keeps increasing. You know what I mean? They obviously were very good with their VR update. So, because that's the issue with Anthem, right? Anthem is actually, the combat is great. The combat does not need to be improved. The issue with the game is that they focus so much on the combat. And also, like we said, the real shame here is that they only gave Anthem 7 months to make this game, which in comparison to most games are worked on for years, they gave Anthem 7 months because EA just wants money. The issue is that this beautiful world that they created is just like void of anything to do. That's like, yeah, it's fun and it's beautiful to fly around from point A to point B and then blow up people when you're at point A. But it's like the reason why missions are tedious is because they haven't filled up the world with enough things to do, activities to do. There's not enough side quests. The game's a little bit grindy. Like, I like to grind in my games, but it's like the grind's got to feel like, look, any kind of grinding is going to be repetitive, but at least like give me more things to look at or more things to do that makes it like slightly different. Missions started getting repetitive. The reason why I'm upset that they're not going to be sticking through with this is because you just need to add some more creativity to the game. The base game, like I said, the base game works. There's not really any major, especially now. Look, day one release, it was a sham, but now there's no, I played this at the end of last year. I played Anthem, like, I want to say in November or December of last year again. And I was enjoying it, not as much as what I think I could have, because the story was okay. The game was pretty empty, but it was the game was easy enough to understand, and I enjoyed the customization options. And it was one of those games where within playing it, the only thing I was thinking about was like, if this game was successful and if this game had a huge player base, I would be so excited to see what future DLCs they would be bringing, or like what even microtransactions for cosmetic purposes. I would be so there for it, because the cosmetic options in that game are they look sick. They look like really, really cool. You know what I mean? I think they actually do have some microtransactions in there, but once again, they're not worth it, because you don't want to show off your cosmetics if there's no one to show it off to. You know what I mean? If there's no players, what's the point of spending $10 on like a really cool skin if no one's going to see it, So I do think, here's why I think that they said that they'll come back to it eventually, and I believe them. And the reason why is because it would be stupid not to. They've put so much money and time into the game already. If they had to just abandon the game, that would be so stupid.
But that's the thing.
Money and time.
If they want to do an Anthem 2, then they've got to do this, right? Because no one's going to buy an Anthem 2 based on what they had with Anthem 1. What you need to do is rebuild and repair that image of the franchise by releasing a free update that fixes the things that people were complaining about, or flesh things out or whatnot. And then you can make an Anthem 2. But if you decide, okay, that's it, we're not doing Anthem Next, let's drop it, we're not going to do it, then you pretty much have given up on the franchise. You're not making an Anthem 2, because it just sounds because people will feel ripped off. Like, oh, well, you didn't do it right the first time, and now you quote unquote did it right the second time, but now we got to pay for it, right? So that's the whole deal.
The only way that could maybe work is if they did like a prequel. You know what I mean? Where like you don't have to have played the first game. That's the only way that I can see that model
the
working.
reputation of that game is tarnished. People are not going to
True. Because you gotta fix it. You're right. Because if they did No Man's Sky 2 instead of just fixing No Man's Sky, no, you're absolutely right. Nobody would have bought No Man's Sky 2. It was not until they fixed it. Like now, also because of the way that they fixed No Man's Sky, that is the most like loyal fan base I've ever seen in my life. Ever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they did like nowadays, if you go to any No Man's Sky forum, it's just positivity. Like there's not even like they don't even trash talk amongst themselves. It's like it's wonderful. Everyone's just like sharing their creations. The only thing people are complaining about No Man's Sky is the lack of PvP, but it's 50-50 because everyone's complaining that PvP would ruin the game for them. Because imagine spending hours on something and then someone comes in and just destroys it or steals it from you. But there's like ways around that.
Fallout 76.
Lock your world or whatever.
Fallout 76 doesn't have. They have PvP, but you have to like engage. Like,
yeah. So they want to do it in like I think No Man's Sky wants to enable PvP, but they want to have like a mode kind of like with GTA where it's like you can put yourself in non-PvP mode, so you can't be attacked and your things can't be destroyed, but you can still witness the PvP, which I think would be cool. But that's No Man's Sky. Anthem. I don't even think that they need an Anthem 2. I wouldn't even say if they need one. I don't like the way that the game works is it's one of those games where I can tell from the way that they built this game that they were expecting Anthem to be just Anthem, not have an Anthem 2 or 3, and just have Anthem going for as long as possible as a games as a service. And that seems that was their goal initially.
Everyone's trying to get those microtransactions, man.
Yeah, I think that they still could do that in the future. But another issue with Anthem is that there's basically no end game. Once you've finished that story, like there's no like they need to add like end game raids or like they need to add a lot more end game content. Also, a lot of people weren't happy with the way that the story ended. I never got that far in the story, so I can't have an opinion on that. But people said that the actual ending to the story was just very unrewarding. It was a very unrewarding ending. Nobody was happy with the outcome. So I think they might have to do some story fixes. That's for sure. My issue is that if they come back to this game in a year from now and they decide, okay, now we're going to do Anthem Next a year from now, I'm so worried that they're going to be too busy focusing on making sure that it looks good on next gen that they're going to completely ignore the biggest issue, which is the fact that the game is empty. You know what I mean? Like they need to add more life to the game, more and keep. Yes, I guess if you are going to be playing this game on a next gen console, you then have the processing power to be able to have more NPCs and have more wildlife and more fauna and flower and things like that. You know what I mean? Which the world itself is plenty. I think they just need to add more animals, more creatures, more enemies, more NPCs. Or just more like believable NPCs as well, which I think would be quite cool.
I mean, that was the thing with Fallout 76. It was empty. I mean, it's much more filled out now, but before it was very empty.
So I like I said, like the reason no one's gonna care about this news too much. Like they're gonna be like, whatever, Anthem sucked anyways. I don't care. But for people who did actually try to get back into it, like myself, it's sad because if you play Anthem right now, I'm not gonna say you're gonna have an amazing time, but you're not gonna have a bad time like you did on day one release. If you play Anthem right now, you're gonna have a fun time, not an amazing time, but a pretty fun time. But the sad thing is that if you play Anthem right now, you're gonna be the real sad thing is you're gonna realize what it could have been, and that's sad.
Yeah,
that's
I remember playing. I love the gameplay mechanics were a lot of fun to play. It was just
they are
They just need to diversify stuff and make things.
Or try to make. They got to also add more. Because like yes, the multiplayer is cool in the sense of you can chat to your friends in parties, but they should have added more like emotes or like ways to interact with players without having to talk to them through a mic or something. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or like they should have added like a hub or something. Because when you like, I think like because you never really see more than like when I played the game, I never really saw more than one or two other people. Because I don't think that they would have a lot of people in your instance or in your world, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Whereas like same with No Man's Sky, you're never going to bump into somebody, but if you go to their hub, you can bump into people all day. You can just sit there, you can e-beg for money, you know? That's what it also missed, is like they really needed like a big central hub, just like Destiny or Destiny 2 has this hub where all the players meet, where you can actually have that social interaction.
Destiny is another perfect example of a game that came out and was kind of underwhelming and disappointed the fan base, but then they fixed it, and now people are like die-hard Destiny players, and then they were able to do Destiny 2, and then all these DLCs, and now people look forward to all these things.
And they learned from Destiny. And they learned from fixing Destiny 1. They learned what works and what doesn't work. Like if it wasn't for them,
but if they didn't fix it, no one would have bought Destiny 2.
Exactly. Specifically, and I think looking back to Destiny 1, what I think was what won back the players and made people happy was their 4th update, which is when they added melee weapons. And then moving forward, like Destiny 2, melee weapons is a big part of it, or like all those super moves you do and stuff. That wouldn't be there if it wasn't for those epic like melee weapons from the first Destiny game that they realized people liked so much. I don't think that they expected that, but from fixing Destiny 1, they realized, oh wow, you know what, we should. I mean, yeah, we're like a first-person shooter kind of type game, but we should definitely add some melee weapons. People like that, you know?
All right, let's move on to...
Hopefully they get back to it.
Microsoft is creating a new company called Vault to complete the ZeniMax Bethesda deals, that they're going to just fold everything that ZeniMax owns, which, included,
I like
a bunch
name.
of different studios, Bethesda, Arcane, Machine Games, all that, and it's going to be all... They're kind of creating it as like the separate entity so that they can still maintain some sort of independence. I mean, obviously they're still owned by Microsoft or whatnot, but Microsoft wants to kind of leave them alone and have them create these games that we don't know yet, but let's say hypothetically and probably leaning towards are going to be exclusive to the Microsoft platform, PC and Xbox. So yeah, they're creating this new company called Vault, and then they can
I think it's for legal purposes to make the merger easier, because the European Union has still not approved their acquisition, and I think that it seems to me like they're also doing this, like not just to let them do their own thing, like you said, but I think it's also for legal purposes to make the merger a lot easier and quicker. That seems to be a case here as well. You know?
Yeah, because all the other studios
I do like the name though.
Yeah. Well, Vault, Fallout,
Vault. Oh, it makes. How did I not click? Because Bethesda, Fallout. Oh my gosh! Wow. I'm a slow one today, man. I can't say I haven't had my coffee because I'm having a monster to wake up. But yeah, that gives me more hope, honestly. Like I was like, because by giving it its own name and its own thing, it's one thing for Microsoft to say, hey, look, we're not going to interfere with Bethesda. We're not going to like tell them what to do. And it's another thing to show us through their actions, hey, look, it's a separate entity. We own it, but it's going to be Vault is going to be its own thing. We're going to leave ZeniMax and Bethesda to do their stuff, you know?
Yeah. All right. Next thing, let's briefly go over this because actually you and me will be doing a spoiler review for the Medium, a game we've been talking about a lot lately. Let's just give a few overall non-spoiler final impressions because we both finished it. I'll start off first. I quite enjoyed this. I said this before. It was a surprise to me, this game, because I had seen it when they had done the Xbox Series X showcase, and I was like, maybe like it. And then when I actually started playing it, I was like, wow, this is right up my alley, Horror is not my thing, but it's not really, it's more of a psychological, supernatural thriller than a horror. I mean, there are horror